Okay, welcome to another episode of Purpose and Power Talk. I'm here with Jen Vera. She is a sales embodiment coach, but more than that, she's a friend of mine, someone I've had the pleasure to work with, that I hired as a coach a few years ago. What a blessing that was, Jen. And you participated in the Core Encounter with me, a 6-week program. We took a deep dive, so I really got to get close to you there. And you've just been an awesome bundle of joy and friendship and pleasure. And every time I've been with you or talked with you, you truly radiate and you truly shine. And I want to let you share a little bit more about this sales embodiment coach role that you're in, what it actually means, and why it's important. So go ahead and let's unload on that.
Yeah, so I've been working with specifically women. I work with men too. Obviously, we work together, but primarily women for the past 4 years. And these are women entrepreneurs. And one thing regarding sales that I always noticed, and I had this myself too, when I first started in my own business, was there was this guilt and shame around asking for money. There was just like this fear. And I think it's not just women, all entrepreneurs face this, but specific to women, there were certain things that really, once adjusted, created a lot of success for them. And that's really what I call the embodiment. And the embodiment is you not just having the skill set. When you have the skill set, it creates a certain sense of confidence. And you not just having the strategy, that also supports the confidence. And I call that the outer work, but the inner work is just being it. And that's what I call embodiment. And that's like when, you know what your service is, how much value you provide your clients is so much, so deeply, so richly that it's just so easy to walk into a room and have a genuine conversation with someone. And if they are a fit, just like very naturally and organically, like a sacred, beautiful invitation, just guide them to you, to your sales process. And it's easy and it's low stress. And that's the energy of embodiment, and it's pleasurable. Sales can be pleasurable. And so that's really what I'm here to do and what I'm up to.
That is so beautiful. You definitely were living that even when we hired you, because I remember having the conversation with you when we were discussing possibilities, and it was just such a delight to be in the conversation. It was like, absolutely, like this girl just radiates and exudes positivity, and it's genuine. It's not a compensation for something. Like she really just sees light and peace and joy and possibility. And you also knew your stuff. So like when we asked the hard questions and like, what are we actually going to be creating and getting, like, you just really knew strategy. You understood branding, you understood marketing, you understood structure. And it was just like, there was so much there. But speaking to the embodiment part, like you were exuding it then. And now I know that was a few years ago. So I'm sure you've taken it to a whole other level. I would like to just say, thank you for being that person. And thank you for letting people know that sales can be fun, pleasurable, and connecting. I mean, that's the only way I run sales conversations myself. It either is a fit or isn't a fit. There's no fear of loss or rejection or denial. And if you want to share some more about that, I think people would love to hear, like, what is it like to be in this conversation that way?
Well, I think the primary thing is really a very strong distinction I learned from Gratitude, which is a program I know you've done. You've done many other programs with the since, before, after. And the distinction I learned there that was so powerful for me and potent is abundance versus scarcity. And when we are coming from abundance, it doesn't have to be, when we're coming from abundance, we come from an energy of only if this is a win-win-win. You win in this deal, I win in this deal. What I'm providing is at a price point that feels energy rich for me to deliver it. You're winning because, the ROI, and I mean, ROI, like as a business sales coach, it's generally money for me, but like there's ROI for health, there's ROI for relationships, like everything can be linked to an ROI, which is return on investment, for those of you who aren't as familiar with that term. And that's really like, and not just you win, I win, that's a win-win, which is great, but like the world wins from our work together. Like you get to impact more people. You get to go deeper with your clients and support them in a way that they really want support and need support, but haven't been given support. So way of abundance is looking for the win-win-win. And I think sales, actually, I was going to write a Facebook post about this, is like the big bad sales shark. Like, people are afraid to get on the phone with salespeople because sales has gotten a really bad reputation. And I think it's a good thing to kind of dig into that reputation, and as it regards to scarcity, because that's what that reputation is built off of. People think of sales, they think of sleazy used car salesman that's going to like screw you over, sell you a lemon, you're going to overpay, and like it's a win-lose. The salesman wins and you lose. And that's just such an old paradigm of doing sales. Or they think that they're going to be manipulated. They think that they're going to get on the call and the salesperson is going to have like these like the ninja manipulation skills and like put a lot of pressure on them, and they're going to feel really uncomfortable. And, and I think that, yes, that has been done in the past. And like, that's not, empowerment is so important in the sales process. And a good salesperson will work from abundance. And a good salesperson will also not just work from abundance, but they're also going to guide you to make an empowered decision. And that means sharing with you, like getting you to your commitment, to what you are committed to what you are prioritizing in this moment, whether it's, taking action on this particular thing in your life or not, and I think a lot of times people feel disempowered in the sales process or have felt disempowered in the sales process, and so they fear it. And the reason that salespeople have disempowered in the sales process is because they're coming from scarcity. They are selling you the wrong product, but they're like, hey, you're the person that I've got on the phone right now. I've got to make this work. I've got to meet my numbers. I've got to meet these metrics or these external things. And I'm going to win, you're going to lose. And that comes from like complete scarcity. That comes from thinking there's no one else that can buy this, And so I think the biggest shift fundamentally is a shift from scarcity to abundance. And that's something that's practiced over time. Definitely. Like, even when I learned about it, it's not just like, hey, cool, I'm abundant now. It's like, like scarcity and abundance permeates so many aspects of our life. Like, it's wild. And it's a big thing. So you usually will need support when you're transitioning from that mindset shift.
I love that. Support is key. I coach because I got the value of people serving me, mentoring me, coaching me, counseling me, guiding me, leading me. I mean, without that in my life, I wouldn't have made the transformation that I made in my life. It would have been impossible on my own. I didn't know who I was.
100%.
A career of criminality and drug dealing and using, I had created myself a certain way, and I didn't really know anything other than that. So the only way I was going to get to another level in my life and create a new world for myself was to learn from people who were doing something different than I was doing. And when it comes to selling, what I'm hearing in this conversation is like, you may not have it all figured out, and maybe the sales process is uncomfortable. You might be doing okay too. Maybe you're doing six figures easy, right? But you still have there's something about those conversations. Maybe you're not feeling as authentic. Maybe you're not feeling as free. Maybe you're trying to reach another level. I still feel like there's so much value to get coaching and support inside of that, because it's the coach relationship creates reflections for those invisible areas of our consciousness that are running our lives without us even knowing it. And when a coach is present, and when you're in the listening of a coach who's really tuned in and listening for your opportunities, and also listening for where you might be self-limiting, there's the lights can come on. And once that's exposed, there's a freedom. And I'm seeing, Jen, that's what you're doing with women primarily. I guess that's your focus, is women, but helping women to really see where they might be shortchanging themselves subconsciously. Those patterns, I'm familiar with working with trauma and where the origin of trauma and self-limitation comes from. It's these specific moments, these specific incidents where there's conclusions, there's pain, there's major decisions that are made that then govern that person's personality and way of being. So I get that you really help to identify these things and transform from that space. And that's a process that maybe doesn't happen instantly, although sometimes it can. Why don't you talk about your process, and how do you create that transformation from a person who's struggling in sales, inauthentically selling, maybe fearful of selling, fear of rejection, coming from scarcity, to feeling totally alive and exuberant?
Oh, I have such a great recent example.
Perfect.
the sales process itself, the conversation itself can be the transformation. And this is what, and I'm going to speak specifically to coaches in this, because if you are a coach and you know your stuff, consider that sales can be a super powerful and potent modality for transformation. Mm-hmm. What happens in the sales process, the way that I teach it, is people make an empowered decision. And in that empowered decision, they commit to something. They commit to doing whatever it takes to get XYZ outcome. And in that moment of commitment, that is when they choose to cross a threshold. Mm-hmm. And that energetic of crossing a threshold, that is not only what empowers them, motivates them, inspires them to get down and dirty and do the work, learn a new skill set, change their pricing and packages, have uncomfortable conversations with clients that aren't serving them anymore. They're not at a level that they want to work with anymore. Change their niche, change their identity, shift their brand, these really big things. But it comes first intrinsically from what an empowered decision and a commitment. It doesn't come from, listen, I'm just going to backtrack here. I used to think that for me to be successful, I had to do all the external things, right? I had to get this type of job. I had to get, I had to learn this type of strategy, this type of skill set. And at the end of the day, one thing I have realized that's in transformation, long-lasting change, permanent transformation, is there has to be an energetic element to it, right? They're where the energy aligns, there has to be the subconscious component of it, and that's really rewiring mindset. So the energetic and the mindset I view as different things, because mindset are your belief systems, and the energetic is coming to a place where you feel energy rich enough in your body physiologically, and also just the metaphysical kind of energy rich enough to be able to get there, to cross the threshold. Because oftentimes when we're beginning things like learning a new skill set or starting a business, it takes a tremendous amount of energy. And then the final piece is what we think we need first, which is the skill set, which is a strategy. And so my process involves all of that. And that's what the coaching is, and the strategy session really gets them through that first initiation, that first threshold, saying yes to what they actually desire. And then from there are strategic things based on what type of business they have that we work with, right? Who are their clients? Can we do deeper work with less clients and charge more for it? Packages and pricing, right? What do they want? What lifestyle do they want? How do they want to serve in their most aligned, deepest way, right? So there's a lot of questions and strategic stuff that we do, but the first piece is always that initiation and them saying, yes, I want this. And it is powerful. And another piece of sales that I teach is really coming into your power, because you cannot empower others if you are not empowered yourself. And so it's really the inner and outer work of sales, and they work like this. They weave into each other. It's not just this and it's not just that. It's they have to work together and align to produce the result.
Absolutely. Yeah. Being totally congruent, getting all the directional, we call vectors of consciousness, right? That term vectors of consciousness, a vector is a line. It's a direction. And if I have a vector that's yeah, I'm going to sell, I got a great product, I care about people. And then there's another vector that's yeah, but what if they reject me? What if they don't buy? And what if they find out that I'm, feeling a little scared inside about this thing that just recently happened, or whatever it is. There's these contradictory vectors, these cross currents, and there's no congruence or alignment. So there's a diffusion of power. You have forces working in opposition to one another. Sounds like what you're assisting clients in doing is getting aligned from the inside out, because the external is created by, you can have the great strategy and total map and plan for your business, but if you don't bring the power and the magnetism to enroll clients and to see clients through to their results, then you're just going to drop the ball.
100%. And the one thing I want to share here too is the right strategy, because I think that in the past I've done this, right? Is, oh, this coach has this and I want this, and I work with that coach so that I can use her strategy to get the same results, and I don't get that result, and I'm like, why didn't I get the result if I did all the things? And here's the thing, and it's crazy, but like, you have all the answers for you, I have all the answers for me. And what's more powerful isn't just, here's a strategy, I've used it, it was successful, you go ahead and use it. It's like using the right strategy for you and allowing that to come through you, and allowing yourself to work your own energy, work your own mindset, so that you are inspired, given, whatever you want to call it. I know that you are a man of God, Vince, so, like receiving from God, from the universe, from whatever you believe, like in that receptive mode, to say like, oh, I felt inspired to reach out to this person today, and they actually had an amazing speaking engagement for me, and that actually generated XYZ. It's like, we can tune into what the best strategy is for us when we are in that state. And I think that's really important to bring up, because I suffered for a long time with my weight. And since I was 7, I struggled with obesity. And the strategy that I used to lose the weight is a strategy that I never thought that I would take, that I thought was wrong, that I thought was cheating. And then all of a sudden, like, I worked a lot of inner work, a lot of the mindset work. Actually, in the core encounter, Vince, you really supported me with this, with healing a lot of trauma that I had with my weight, because, keep it on for protection. And the strategy, the actual tactics and strategy of like the how that I lost all the weight, was not something that I felt was organic, or that it would just peel off, like it did, just melt off. But I also had, weight loss surgery. But it was the perfect strategy for me. Yeah. It was the absolute right strategy for me for so many different reasons. And I did it from a place of deep self-love, because I did all of that inner work. And so I'm not worried about it coming back. I'm not worried about, it was aligned. And so there's a billion different ways to lose weight. And that was the way that was right for me. And that really taught me that even in business, there's no cookie cutter, here you go, here's your strategy and your strategy. And it's all serving from the same bowl of soup, it's.
You took a shortcut, and it's not, taking a shortcut sometimes seems like, oh, I'm cheating, or I'm, not, and shortcuts but hey, if I can provide a shortcut for my child to, get through to school a little bit faster by helping them get educated, a little extra mentorship or something like that, and they advance in classes and they finish college by 2 years earlier than the average student, you know what I mean? Is that wrong? Is it bad? Will people judge you? Maybe. But if there's shortcuts that you can take that work and that get you to where you want to be, and they're not unethical, they're not harming other people, then no big deal, right? In your case, you took a shortcut, but it wasn't
I don't consider weight loss surgery a shortcut. And here's why. There are, and this is debatable, but there are serious physiological things that go into obesity that most people don't understand, having to do with hormones, having to do with all sorts of things. Most diets fail. I'd been on diets for a long time. I don't believe it was a shortcut, because I had to do all of this inner and outer work in order to get to the conclusion to do weight loss surgery. And I still have to do the work. I still go to the gym. I still am super cognizant of what I eat. This is a forever thing. I still had to make a very bold decision. And so I think it's a different strategy and different approach to it. But I wouldn't consider it a shortcut, even though I get it. A lot of people would. And it's okay. It's easy to call things shortcuts. It was a fast way to lose weight. It was fast. But the years I took of 40-day fasts and paleo, vegan, vegetarian, endless diets, hours at the gym, like slaving away and it not working, like all those years, I wouldn't call it a shortcut. I think it was just like the right thing for me at the right moment for me.
Makes a lot of sense. Thanks
Yeah.
for correcting that and making that clear. I totally get it. And just so everyone knows, I think you said you're about 90 pounds heavier than you are now, which is a pretty significant.
Lighter.
You're 90 pounds lighter than you were when you were in the core encounter. I mean, it's a huge difference, and I do get the work that you've put in, and thanks for cleaning up the conversation around shortcut, because it still required a lot from you, and it really required you to be someone to stick with that conversation, that you were being someone internally first that's producing, the results, because the external followed who you decided to be already internally, and you were exuding that internally. You had come to a point where it's like, okay, this is what I want. This is where I want to go. This is who I get to be. And then you did the surgery from that empowered place, not from a desperate, or I've got no other option. It was like, it came from this, you were actually resisting it, you were saying, but it's like, it turned out the right thing for me, because it's the right thing for me. It was pure. It came from a pure motivation.
Because I thought it was cheating. I thought it was a shortcut. I used to think that. And then, it was just the right thing for me. Just as, working with, sometimes working with a coach where it feels like, oh my God, such a potent and powerful decision. It would have taken you years without work and struggle without working with that coach to do it. And then you take the step, you pay a lot more money than you thought you were going to pay maybe, or do the hard thing. And you get results a lot faster in a shorter amount of time. And again, it comes right back to what you were saying, Vince, who you are being in that moment when you make the decision and making a choice from a place of power. That's the magic. That's the trick.
Absolutely. In the coaching thing you brought up is powerful, because I work with clients to do really deep dives to clear and integrate the trauma and the causes of these other effects in their life, the symptoms. It could be relationship breakdowns. It could be self-limitations, stopping them in business and life, the ability to communicate well. And just by going into that place, I mean, we can spend 2 hours and some money for those sessions. In 2 hours can get right to the bottom of what's been running their life, get conscious of it, embrace it, cry it out if need be, because that emotion's been pent up for years. I mean, it happens in such a short amount of time. It's like, what I know happens if they don't do that, you can go on for years and be stuck. Your body can just be feeling resistant. There can be a heaviness. There can be I can't relate to my spouse or my boyfriend, girlfriend, powerfully, because there's something inside of me that I just don't understand. And it's like, you come into the light of a conversation and some processes that allow all that inner space to be illuminated, and suddenly you can integrate this part of yourself that you've rejected for years. The next thing you know, you're feeling like you've dropped 90 pounds, so to speak, right? It's just like that as well. And I think when I say shortcut, that's the kind of shortcut I'm referring to. It's like, you don't have to struggle. There's a right path, and it doesn't mean you're cheating because you do something to make your time span shorter, to reach the results faster. As long as, again, not ethical, not hurting anybody, and it's coming from an empowered place. I think it's beautiful that this is coming up in the conversation.
And that's the quantum leap, right? That we're wanting, and we're kind of coming into, kind of getting a little out there, but fun out there. Yeah. We're kind of coming into a time and space in this culture where the quantum leaps are more possible than they ever were. We don't have to follow this linear span of first this, then this, then this, then this, then this. It's we can do certain things to get us from here to here, taking quantum leaps, with the right tools, methodologies, energy behind it.
Absolutely. I mean, the internet was a quantum leap of information sharing and connectivity. I mean, it just was one day we're just doing phone calls and maybe some cheap video phone calls that didn't really work very well. The next thing you know, we have internet, and then we have, the ability to do what we're doing right here, right now. I mean, it just makes the world an amazing place when you the way that we use it. But there's so much available. Jen, I want you to speak a little bit about this other part of what you do, which is the serving the feminine to rise into her power and her glory. There's that's a particular distinction or an emphasis of the work. Talk a little bit about that and how that helps women transform from what are they transforming from? Where were they? what are they going through, and then where do they come out in the end in that transformation of discovering their feminine and their power?
Thank you so much for that question.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. At least in this culture, money is power. And women have had an inverse relationship with power for many, many years, you know, in the culture, in the society. And we are stepping into a place of power. And the power that has been taught to us in this culture has been very, it was built by patriarchal structures, meaning masculine structures. And when we get to business and talking about business is a patriarchal structure. It was built by men. Women really, even in the Western world, didn't get into the workforce until the 1940s, till World War II. And the rise of the feminine is like, it's having the feminine come into her glory to add to the masculine,
Well said.
to support the masculine. Because one thing, you know, it's not like, okay, if we were only like feminine energy and doing that, like, we probably wouldn't get that much done. We need the structure of the masculine, and we have the ability to incorporate more of our essence into it and infuse it into it. And so it's a both. It's like I heard this said so beautifully once at a conference. It's like, right now, the world has been operating with like one big wing of a bird flying. And we've been kind of flying, falling, lots of wars starting, lots of stuff, you know, like violent society, not ideal utopian society, but like, hey, it's been working for a lot of us in many ways, and it's been not working in a lot of ways. And what I see is like both wings flying. What I see is with the feminine really rising into her power, it's like, hey, like, let's help you out with that. You know, let's like both fly and be more intentional about our direction instead of flying around in circles, you know? And so I think that's the great value add. And one thing I want to like really emphasize here is that it is a both. And the way that it was built is not broken. It just needs a little more us. And that requires women to step into their full glory. And that requires women to step up into their leadership and to step up into their power. And not in a way that's, you're wrong, or like in a way that's overly aggressive. It's feminine power. And feminine power is just, it's delicious. It's pleasurable. It's tuned in. It's like aligned with spirit, and it can be quiet sometimes, but it's like an energetic presence that's, you know, unmessable with. It's like present, and it's there, and it supports, and it guides. And I think that's the big difference. You know, we think about power in a way that's like a power lifter and like power, you know, and I think that there's a lot of pleasure in power, and we have to be willing as women to really receive and accept the responsibility of leadership that entails, to support greater familial structures, to support working in a way that's more aligned for us, and so that we can be with our families and support our children and support the children of the world and support our earth and like make the world a better place.
I love this, and I want to just highlight what you're sharing. I love the wing analogy. I love that the rise of the feminine is not as a like, hey, we need to dominate men and knock them off the platform here. It's like a woman rising into her power is really coming alongside and being a support to the man. And the man's role in an ideal masculine scenario is supporting the woman, and the woman supporting the man, and they're working together, and they're flapping their wings, like you said, in synchronicity, and they're moving in one accord and can get in that place that they're aiming for. Now, I would love to hear like an example of a woman to wrap this up, because we're going to wrap up in a couple minutes. But what is a woman who isn't in her power looking like, operating like, thinking like? And then what is one who is in her power? Let's focus on one individual, and like, let's describe this experience of a woman so we can see the transformation.
a woman who isn't in her power, and I'm going to relate this to business, women entrepreneurs, because that's
Cool.
my sweet spot, right? A woman who isn't in her power in her business is exhausted. She's resentful. She is overworked, doesn't like her life. She's not feeling joy or pleasure, or like even her body. You know, she's maybe neglecting her body. She feels like a martyr. She feels like a sacrificial lamb. She feels as though she always has to give.
Mm.
She doesn't receive as much money, love, care, things being done for her, support. And she's pissed off and like over it. And just like, why? I think I might go get a full-time job. I'm exhausted. Why did I end up doing this? And she resents her clients. She resents her family. She's not, and she's frustrated. And like she feels hurt because she feels misunderstood, because she had all the good intentions, but she's just tired, you know, and there's like a lot of pain there, right? And a woman who is empowered has boundaries. And these boundaries aren't like, hey, F you, jerk. Like, they're present, and like, they're that energetic presence of, this is what I'm available for, and this is what I'm not available for. I'm not available to work 50 hours a week. Sorry, not sorry. You know, like, a woman who is in her power doesn't have to like be aggressive or be up like, I'm powerful. She doesn't have to do that. It's a beingness. A woman who's in her power feels peaceful, and she feels abundant, and she feels abundant in time, and she feels inspired and like just juiced up, and like has pleasure in her life, and not just from her work. Though her work is very pleasurable, but she has balance. She has great relationships with her spouse, or partner. If she wants a partner, if that's what she desires, she has that in her life. She has beautiful, nurturing relationships with her children. She has just juiced up. She has community, and she receives. She receives money for her services, because she values herself. Her services are of high value for others, and she prices accordingly. And she like feels completely at peace with what that rate is. She receives support from people in her life. She allows her business to support her, for it to be structured in a way to provide that masculine support to her, to provide for her, you know, and she's receptive to it. She allows it. And that's pretty much the distinction.
So good. So well communicated. And I'll bring one other little factoid into this conversation that, you know, I'm listening to that and I'm like, wow, like I've been all of those things. I've also been all of the empowered things. And I see my mother in that situation, and I see myself reflecting my mother's feminine qualities of, you know, fear and weakness and insecurity, and you know, the things that I saw growing up as a child. And what I want to point to, this little factoid, is that men or women both have a masculine and a feminine pole. And so even though we were speaking about the divine or empowered woman, or the rise of, you know, the empowered woman, we're really still addressing men too, because men being able to receive from other people, right? Like there's this kind of this that like I went through this, and in the last few years I've really done some deeper work to like be more receptive to guidance and mentorship on a whole nother level, because I had a wound from a leader that I followed, and that was very supportive, and then there was a breakdown in that relationship, and then I was like deciding I'm never going to let anybody lead me again. And that closed off that feminine quality of my leadership and my being, that then prevented me from being guided and directed in a way that I needed. And it led to some results that I was dissatisfied with. And I had to figure out why. And I realized I had to cut that part of me off, that I stopped being a receptive male. I was just being like a overly masculine male. And so there's like an imbalance in power internally. So wanted to hear your thoughts on that, and then we'll wrap up the show from there.
Vince, Vince. Yes. And, it's come to my, like, I have a lot of men that comment on my post. And, I just did a post on the masks that we wear. And I had a comment from a male friend, and he's like, hey, like, men wear masks too. And even more than, like, I think in this culture, women, we have, it's more socially acceptable for us to be in our masculine, right? Like doing the thing, hustling, power, man. Like we have more permission than so many men do to like feel our feelings. Like we get to be feminine and we get to be masculine and we get to experience all of it. And I'm actually teaching the feminine because on some aspects, like women have forgotten how to do things from a place of feminine power in business, especially, and the point that you bring up is so key. We absolutely do need both. And men get to receive leadership from strong, balanced, and empowered men like yourself, and it's just an experience that like I can't speak to directly. And it's necessary. And like, I love it when men receive value from what I provide. And I've worked with the men before, and the masculinity just goes so much deeper in terms of like patriarchy wasn't just bad for women, it was bad for humans, and what I mean by patriarchy, like, I know it sounds like down with the patriarchy type of word, but it really just means systems that were built by the patriarch, by like these masculine entities where women were not in the room, where like it was built by men and for men, right? And like not necessarily like the most awakened masculine either. These are antiquated things that, both of us are really looking to support new ways of doing things. And so, like, I completely
I want to highlight
agree.
something there. Yeah, like, so it was out of balance. Like, it's important for men to be with men because, like, I'm part of a number of men's groups, and I'm, going to be facilitating and leading some men's groups, and I've done that in the past, and there's this need for men to come together now because there's things that men just don't want to share in front of their wives, in front of other women, because it's not possible, but just initially it's just not going to happen, right? There's just too much in the head, too much emotion behind it, too much fear. And so men need to be with men. But I think the patriarchal structure you're speaking to was like, it was like this exclusive men thing. And it didn't embrace the feminine. It was too narrow. It was too concentrated on man to man. And like women were kind of relegated to the side. Relegated is the word I'm looking for. Relegated to the side as like a less than. And that created this terrible imbalance. It's why we have all this dominating forces of control factors that I'm going to take your land and your possessions, and I got to get the best, and who cares at what expense I got to do it. That energy and intentionality came from this imbalance of not allowing the divine feminine or the natural feminine to really be present in the community.
It's the shadow. It's the shadow masculine, just as like the feminine has its shadow parts, like of ownership, control, like, I own you, I own this, and women not having a voice. But like, it's also just, even in that context, if women were given a voice, I like to think that things would be different, but at the same time, like, they are also of the culture at that time, right? Like, even when women were given a voice, like, slavery was still permitted. It's not like I don't want to overemphasize and be like, like, we still all get to do the work, like, we still all get to do the work and get to like do our healing work for the betterment of society. And that's the only way that it's going to happen, both men and women.
Well said. Well said. Yeah. So Jen, I would love to give people a chance to get in touch with you. What's the best way for them to contact you?
Best way is my email, hello@jenvera.com. And follow me on Facebook or Instagram, Jen Vera, JenVera, like aloe vera. I post a lot of really great content. And this is so awesome. This is so great. I appreciate you, Vince. I appreciate what you create, what you build, and the people that you bring into your life, you know?
Yeah, I
Thank
brought
you.
you.
I know.
You're just awesome. We get to do this again. I think there's a whole nother possibility for conversation in a future time.
Oh,
I love what you bring. I feel like there's a lot opened up, and I'm just like, man, we can't really go into all that. I'm keeping these to around 30 minutes or so, but would love to have a secondary conversation at some point. Thank you for bringing this to light. Thank you for sharing. I'm touched. I'm inspired. I'm moved. I got awareness of some things. I'm working on this conversation of the feminine in the masculine, and like, what does that look like, and how do we manage that? So a lot was lit up for me because of what you shared. So I thank you. Was it info at Genvera or hello at Genvera?
Hello at genvera.com.
Hello at
Because
Genvera.
I'm cute like that.
Yeah, Jenvera. Send her an email. You do like introductory calls, discovery call, like connection call.
Absolutely.
Doesn't cost anything.
If someone's interested in working together, we jump on the phone, like no cost. And if it's a fit, awesome. And also if it's not a fit, I know a lot of people have a lot of like resources I'm happy to share. So
awesome. Well said. Thanks for being the blessing that you are, Jen. I appreciate you being on Purpose and Power
Thank
Talk
you.
Conversations on Transformation. Definitely some transformative elements were revealed here. Thank you very much for being you.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye.